Okay, I'm going to take my little invention, a little fiber optic stroboscopic tool. It's hooked to a Nikon SB910 speed light. It could be 900 or 700 or 800. I have full TTL control of the light exposure using SC29 flash cable. I showed you this in 2 prior videos. I wanted to show you something else. This will be the fulfillment of this. Now, obviously, I'm going to be using a macro lens, Takina 100mm macro. But all of these principles are completely applicable whether it's an 85mm portrait lens or this macro lens. There's two defining principles that define professional photography is expertise and composition and light manipulation, but a sub-attribute of light manipulation is light control. Obviously, logically so, however, a lot of people don't think about that. So obviously I have extreme control over this. I showed you how to make this before, and of course I've melted the ends. I have 11 little fiber optic cables. Here it'd be 15 or 20, or it could be 10. But I chose 11. They're 2mm fiber optic cables. I actually have this little hood over here to prevent excess flare coming into the lens. It's just attached via Velcro. It's made out of a piece of laminated cardstock. I'll have the test shots uploaded to the Flickr page. Check below for the links. Obviously, normally if I were doing this for real as a commercial shot of a product, I wouldn't have these overhead lights on. I'd have very minimal illumination. I'd be doing this normally on a tripod, of course, and for steadier shots. And I'd also likely be doing a time exposure where I'd actually use the speed light for full TTL control, but have it on bulb, and after I'm done, come in and paint some highlights using a flashlight or a small LED light and illuminate something red, green, or blue to give edge definition, further edge definition with the light. But I'll have these test shots uploaded later, not the ones that I'm taking right now because these floodlights pouring in is actually altering my light, but what I've done with these lights off after I stop rolling on what I'm doing here. Okay? Examples like this. This. Perfect. Right here I'm going to work off that silver soft release button. I'm going to deflect off it. I'll always be thinking about light and how light works. Angle of incidence equals angle of reflection. What sort of shot? See, that turned out perfect. That turned out better than I actually expected. Go. Like I said, I'd only be doing this on a tripod. I'm just giving you an example of what I would be doing. Okay, I'm going to come up from behind over here. So basically, even though I'm not on a tripod right now, I've got the same shot, but I can make this look 100 different ways. And totally different, of course, is exactly as it should be. So I have full TTL control. And firing with this fiber optics through my Nikon SB910 speed light. Now, another thing that I'm going to do, and I'll upload a picture of it, is I'm going to drop a green gel over the top of this. Just add a piece of tape, drop it there, and I'm going to change the mood entirely. Like I said, I can have this in a tripod shot. And on a tripod, fire my flash. I can have an additional flashlight over here with the gel over top of it. Add some definition. Layered effect. One of the sub-attributes of light manipulation, which I've already stated, is light control. But the secondary sub-attribute of light manipulation, you have control, but then you have layering. So you have to have, obviously, as expertise, professional photography, composition, light manipulation, but one of the 2 subcategories of light manipulation is control, and with this fiber optic wand I have supreme control. You can experiment around and you can learn immediately as you actually change the angle, attack angles of your shot, and you change the illumination and give different edge definition to whatever it is you're shooting. I'm just using this Fuji camera, for example, the top of it, just as an example, and I'll upload the shot, just see the link below. But the secondary attribute, one, you've got control with this, which of course I have, but secondly, layering. So I would have this on a tripod. I'd fire my strobe however I wanted it, and then I'd add a second layer, either using a wand or a second speed light. I actually like to paint with a flashlight, an LED light using gels. It depends on what you want to go for, what I want to go for. But I'll take the shots after I do this video and upload them for you. But you need to be thinking about this. You got to be thinking about light. I mean, painters think about pigment. They don't have to necessarily know exactly what they're composed out of, but they have to know the textures of the pigments, how they spread, how they dry, how they mix. And you got to be thinking about light, photographia, the same way a painter thinks about painting. And they have to know, well, this certain pigment spreads a certain way, it mixes a certain way, it dries at a certain rate, it looks a different way after it's dried than when it's wet, and you have to be thinking about light in the exact same way, except in a different set of circumstances. How it reacts, how it reflects, how you can layer it, how you can control it. How do painters control their paint? Well, they've got an array of all sorts of funky looking little brushes. Fan brushes, fat brushes, stiff bristle brushes, soft bristle brushes. You know, some of them will be made out of different sorts of exotic funky hair. I used to watch the painting show by old Bob Ross, you know, the guy with the big fuzzy afro, and I'm going to paint some pretty trees. You know, he had a really soft, calm voice. That was really relaxing. That's like a visual Valium watching that guy paint. And it's the same thing in photography. You have to be thinking about the tools that you use to manipulate your paint, and the paint is your light. Now you can either take Mother Nature's light or artificial light, and of course these are artificial lights, obviously so, but you're going to have to control it, and the way you control it, this is just nothing other than a photographic brush. Okay, this is my fine pointed brush, and my speed light alone is you know, a giant fat bristle brush for painting, you know, the background of a painting. You know, it's this is a shotgun, and this is a high-powered rifle. I mean, you have to be thinking in terms of light manipulation, light modification, and also secondarily, after the attribute of control, the attributes of layering. And there are many more attributes, and I'll get into those later, but you have to start thinking in those terms. And once you do, your photography will skyrocket. I absolutely guarantee it. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you start thinking that way immediately and experiment around with it, this costs $4 to make. A lot of you out there have macro lenses. And you're thinking, well, you know, I'm just going to stick a speed light over here and I'm going to shoot an insect, which is good. I'm going to shoot an insect right here. I'm going to aim the speed light. BAM! Well, that's good, but how about building something like this for $4? Sticking it underneath the leaf that the insect is on and illuminating it from underneath, or getting some really controlled light. One thing that shocks people is that how on earth did you not blast that little macro shot? You're taking a picture of a bug right here, but you got this controlled light right here, and everything else kind of fades off to black. There are very few people that can actually do or ever think about doing macro photography like that, because they stick a big speed light over top of the bug that they're shooting, or insect, or whatever the hell it is, and BAM! You know, the whole thing is just shot, even a perfect exposure, the whole thing is shot with just a big shotgun blast of light. Start thinking in small terms. You'd be shooting macro, how about a macro rifle to actually shoot the macro stuff that you're actually shooting? You know, start thinking in those terms. And so this is $4 to build. And anyway, check the links below and you will see the representation. It only took me, you know, 30 seconds to try out 4 different angles, and then you could chimp them on the back of your camera and go, I like that, I don't like that, and what if I did this instead of that? And you know, I'm sitting here, I'm taking 4 shots, boom, 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 boom. I'm not actually changing or zooming in or out, but I have totally different compositions of what it is I'm shooting. And the same thing applies, like I said, from macro to shooting a model with an 85mm. It applies regardless. It applies on the small scale as easily it does as it applies on the big scale. Okay? So start thinking about that. And once you think about that, your photography will improve drastically. I promise it. Promise it 100%. Okay? Thanks for watching. If you like this video and drop a buck or two, go tell me to jump off a cliff. I will catch you cats later. And I'm going to go eat some pizza.